Another archaeological dig has been going on in downtown Santa Fe. It's the law in the historic area that archaeologists must make an assessment of what's beneath the ground before new construction of any type can get underway. The site in question this time is behind the St. Francis Basilica, the site of a number of buildings, including the old hospital at the corner of Paseo de Peralta and Palace Avenue. They've done test holes and are waiting to quantify those findings before moving perhaps to the next step. What hangs in the balance is a project by the Drury Hotel chain. They plan to build a high-end boutique hotel on the site, but first they have to find out where and how far they can go. Eric Blinman is head of archaeological studies for the Museum of New Mexico. After he gave a public talk on that project, I asked him how often do historic sites get protected after they're found.
Rarely in today's world do we ever get to excavate anything that isn't intended for destruction through some force of development. And only very rarely do we find things that are so valuable in and of themselves that they change development plans. The Civic Center is a classic example of that, where the community values that were embodied in the decision to make the Civic Center overrode any sense of what the value of preservation would be of the materials that were in the way of the construction of the center.
So if something significant had been found, or now in your project could be found, it might be preserved if there's money.
There's always that possibility. Preservation, though, is difficult. The idea of preserving something so people could come visit it and see it, if that preservation is attempted outside, usually you're committed to an incredible investment of constant upkeep. It's not really any different than having to keep, Taos Pueblo or northern New Mexico church intact. It has to be, remudded every single year. It's constant attention. And that argues against developing a lot of archaeological features for public viewing after they've been exposed.
I guess the good news is, so far, you haven't found a lot on this site.
We have found a lot in terms of information, but some of that information is negative in the sense that we don't have the parochial, we don't have any real 18th century Spanish colonial deposits. So there's negative information is good, as well as positive information. So in the positive side, we have found this interesting Spanish colonial surface and trash. On the positive side, we've got confirmation of the history of the historic buildings on the site. But again, I like the negatives as much.
You found some pavement. It looks like it was laid as pavement. 4 or 5 feet below the surface?
Before today's surface, yeah.
Could it have been, at that depth, a real street, a real road?
Oh, easily.
How could the walls, how could the site have been built up that much over the street?
It's interesting. When you look at historic photographs of the entrance to what is now Cathedral Park, and what was then the sort of the driveway leading up to the sanatorium, you can see that between that time and today, the street level has risen about 1.5 to 2 feet. So Santa Fe has been accumulating fill at a remarkable rate, even in the past 100 years. And so, yeah, a lot of that stuff is just covered by human-moved and more than natural accumulations of fill.
Next steps? What do you do next?
Well, the next steps are we finish the analysis of all the materials that were collected in testing, so we have a better sort of confirmation of our field observations of what everything dates to, do more historic research, develop an actual plan that will give research focus to the upcoming excavations, and then we work with the Drury Hotel in terms of where their plans will destroy archaeological materials and where their plans won't. And again, there's no reason to excavate something unless it's going to be destroyed. So we've got to sort of balance that. And then sometime later this year, probably, our excavations will move forward, and Drury Hotels will be finalizing their designs for all of the above-ground portions of the development.